Alan, it's time. We have to do
time.
this whether we want to or not.
We made it.
Let's talk about Madam Web. What is the story of Madam Web, Alan? And
Well,
just a brief synopsis. We don't need a blow by blow here.
Yeah. So Dakota Johnson is the daughter of a spider expert who got bit by a spider, and mother died. Dakota Johnson's character, foster care, develops these powers that allows her to see in the future, allows her to basically see alternative futures and then pick the right future to save her life, things like that. She's chased by the guy who killed her mother. She has to save the lives of 3 teens, and that's Madam Web. I mean, do you need more than that?
I mean, the whole thing is, so she runs into these 3 teens, and in the future, these teens will be spider heroes in some form, right? It's not, and look, honestly, I am not familiar with these characters.
I am not familiar with any of them. I've heard of Madam Web. I've not heard the others, but I've certainly never read Madam Web.
It's the Diversity Spider Girls, okay? And they show, you only see, okay, you've seen in the trailers, there's only 2 scenes with these characters, and they're like in a dream. You see them in a dream, and they're played by Sydney Sweeney, Isabella Merced, and who's the other girl? Isn't there? Oh, Celeste O'Connor.
Yeah, that's it.
So it's the Diversity Spider Ladies, and Dakota Johnson's character, she plays this woman who is an EMT. She works with a guy named Ben Parker. Adam Scott. Ben Parker. It's good. He's gonna be Uncle Ben. And there's
because it takes place in 2003, I think.
Yeah, so the movie starts in 1973 in South America, searching for these magical spiders that have powers. Ezekiel, this character, is somehow imbued with these spider powers, and he's like a dark Spider-Man trying to murder the young girls who he sees in a dream inevitably end up killing him. So he wants to kill them before they become spider women people with powers. It's incredibly dumb. And what's weird is that I felt like I'm watching this movie, and every aspect of it, every layer of it, from the screenplay, which has some of the, like, we were laughing at how bad some of the lines were. Dakota Johnson, you could tell by the end of the film, especially, and we'll give a warning for spoilers. I'm not sure how much people care about spoilers, but we will give a warning. We're not going to talk spoilers just now, but it's so ridiculous. Dakota Johnson, oh my God. And I actually like her. I have no problem with her. I actually think all the actors did a decent job, except for the actor who played Ezekiel. He ADR'd all of his dialogue. For some reason, all of his dialogue is ADR'd, and it's bad. And if you watch his lips, we went to a screening last night with a bunch of people. Baggage Claim was there, Dante, bunch of people, Pauly Latino Slant. He was dubbed with ADR, but his mouth movements didn't match a lot of what was said. So you can tell they changed a lot. A lot changed in the editing of this movie because they're changing lines. And this is something that if you watch certain movies a lot, you'll see, like, they're just egregious examples of characters saying one thing with their mouth, but different words come out, and a lot. So that tells me they changed a lot in this movie. So, in any case, I felt like I was seeing a trailer for a movie that actually looked like it could be fun, with Madam Web as kind of a Charlie to a Charlie's Angels of Spider Women. She's sort of the matriarch, kind of like head of these, with these sort of almost Professor X type powers, right? And she's in charge of these young spider women with these powers. And I'm like, oh, that could actually be kind of cool. That's not what the movie is. The movie is like the Terminator, right? Like, in the sense of, like, Ezekiel now finding where these girls are in the present, knowing in the future that they're going to murder him. So he tries to kill these girls before they get their powers. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. and the theater wasn't empty. It was maybe a third full. And what I noticed was this was really funny. So we had our big movie meetup group, which was like about 20 people. So about 20 of us all went to see it together. And there was a different movie meetup group that was even bigger. It must have been like 30 people. So, I mean, it was a big theater, but there were like, not quite 100 people in the theater. That's like more for 300 people. But they were so we all went out of the theater and sort of separated in our groups. And there was the one movie group there. And we just like all just were like, we just kept thinking of dumb things like while we were watching it. But it was like I saw a trailer in this movie for a different movie that I would have rather seen than the movie I'm currently watching.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah.
It's awful, but I will say this. It's more fun than the Marvels. The Marvels was super cringe. Almost consistently, the Marvels was cringe. This was really cringe at the end. It was super cringe the very end of the movie. I'm not going to say what happens. It's super cringe. This was just dumb, and I was laughing at it. And by laughing at it, I had fun watching it, but it's a terrible movie. It's like I can't argue with you that like The Toxic Avenger is a great film, but you laugh. This is just it's laughably bad in its badness. Alan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned all that because so when I went into the theater, and yes, 3 other people showed up, so I wasn't completely
Wait, so you weren't alone? There were 3 other people in the theater?
There were 3. There are 4 people in our giant IMAX theater at my local theater. I think it helps to have zero expectation, to know that this is going to be a bad movie when you go in, because quite frankly, knowing that it was bad and that you could unplug your brain, I didn't hate the movie as much as people are making it out to be. It's not good, but it's certainly better than Argyle. There wasn't a moment where I just kind of rolled my eyes and said, I'm out. It was just like, okay, bad dialogue. Like you say, it's like watching a trauma movie. And it got me thinking that midway through, I'm going like, if this were a low budget indie movie, I would probably like this movie. Because at least the filmmakers are making an earnest attempt to tell some kind of story with the limitations of having zero money. The problem is this movie has all the money in the world, and it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't feel like a cheap indie. Another thing it has working against it is the fact that it's in the Spider-Man universe. If you had just pulled it out and said it's just an indie sci-fi movie, low budget indie sci-fi movie, you probably have a good time with this movie. But now you have the Spider-Man lore kind of connected to it, and worse, you have a villain who's basically Spider-Man. For all intent and purpose, that villain is Spider-Man, and so now you've kind of sullied the whole Spider-Man lore at that point. One of the girls, she lands in a Spider-Man pose. Okay, we're taking the greatness of Spider-Man and throwing it into this like a new wrestler who takes an old wrestler's iconic move. But again, I didn't, throughout the entire movie, I wasn't like, oh, I hate this, or I wasn't like, or I can't stand this movie, or I got through it, and I was watching 4 very pretty people running around on screen, and so that kind of helped ease the pain here. I will say there are some bright spots. This is not a girl boss movie at all. In fact, I don't think any of the 4 women ever threw a punch in this movie. It's not woke. It wasn't commenting on the misogyny of men. There weren't comments about race. It was just a straightforward telling. The other thing about it being an indie film, it's a very indie idea that Madam Web's power is her ability to see into the future. And so the entire movie is her basically avoiding bad things that happen in the future, which is a very indie idea when it comes to sci-fi.
It's kind of like Final Destination, right? Yeah. Like Final Destination, like, oh, it's coming, it's coming. It had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But there are so many dumb moments.
Let me just make my point with this. The idea that her power is to avoid the future, and this is essentially avoid
cataclysmic events in the future.
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying. Avoid
cataclysmic events going to happen.
But, okay.
How do I avoid that one thing?
Okay. Yeah. Let me make the point though. The problem with that power is it makes it a passive movie. You know, because the girls, all they do the entire movie is run away, is
Right.
avoid things. Again, because this is not a girl boss movie, none of them threw a punch, which is fine. We complain all the time about you know, the physical strength of a woman being able to knock out a man. Well, that never happens here. You know, they just run. They run. They rarely ever get into physical altercations with Xavier, and as realistic as that is, it's not an exciting superhero movie. You know, you do want to see some kind of action, some kind of fight scene, and the movie is a very passive superhero movie. And I think, you know, again, this should have been a low budget indie movie. It should have cost $10 million to make. It should not have been part of the Marvel universe or the Spider-Man universe. You know, and that's, you know, and I think if you realize that, you could have made this actually an okay movie to watch.
Right. Let's so do you recommend Madam Web, Alan?
You know, it's one of those, if you want to just unplug your brain and see pretty girls run around, run away, and have, you know, and not care about the quality of a movie, sure, go watch this one. Certainly better than Argyle. You could do worse. You could do
this
worse.
It's laughably bad.
Yeah.
And the thing is it has more laughs than the Marvels, which was cringe.
Yeah.
This
I mean,
is
the idea that this is the worst movie ever. The idea that this is the worst movie ever. I'm not going to go in that kind. I would say the Marvels definitely, Wish definitely. Anything that Disney Marvel has put out is ostensibly worse than this.